Welcome back to The Explainer. So today we are unpacking what has to be one of the absolute most exciting shifts happening in tech right now. We're officially moving away from those simple back-and-forth conversational AIs, and we're stepping right into the era of AI actually acting as an active, highly capable digital worker.
Okay, let's dive into this. You've probably found yourself asking at some point, if AI is so incredibly smart, why can't it just do my work for me? I mean, we've all been there, right? You ask a language model to do something complex, and, well, it just spits text back at you. And then you're stuck doing all the copying, the pasting, the actual executing. It's super frustrating because you can totally see the potential, but the AI itself feels completely isolated from the actual digital tools you use to get your job done.
So here's our roadmap for solving this mystery together today. We'll kick things off with the brain in a jar, look into the agent loop, talk about the digital language barrier, and then introduce a massive breakthrough, MCP, the universal translator. After that, we'll check out agents driving web browsers and finally look ahead to the agentic future.
All right, part one, the brain in a jar.
You see, if you take a large language model and strip away its tools, you basically just have a chatbot. It's strictly text in, text out. It constantly requires you to babysit it. You prompt it replies, you prompt it again. It's just an endless game of ping pong. But true AI agents, they operate autonomously. They actually perceive their environment, they plan out sequences of actions, and then they go and execute them. They don't just talk, they actually do.
To really wrap your head around this, there's this brilliant quote from our sources that hit the nail on the head. It says, "The LLM is kind of like a human from 20,000 years ago with a spear in its hand, without all the tools and architecture around it." Think about that. The LLM is literally just the reasoning engine. It's a brain in a jar. It's incredibly smart, sure, but without the infrastructure of civilization, without houses or roads, or in digital terms, without tools to read files, run code, or actually search the web, its ability to actually do real work is surprisingly limited.
And man, before standardized protocols came along, getting that isolated brain to interact with the real world required these unbelievably complex cognitive architectures. It was a total mess. Developers had to manually hard-code all these intricate, spaghetti-like pathways just to get the AI to perform a single basic action. It was an absolute nightmare to build, and it definitely wasn't something scalable for everyday users like us.
Which brings us to part two, the agent loop. So if we actually want our AI to be an autonomous worker, it needs a heartbeat. And this heartbeat is what we call the agent loop. It basically boils down to three fundamental steps: observe, think, and act. First, the agent observes its environment, maybe checking its workspace, reading a file, or looking at the results of whatever it just did. Second, it thinks. It fires up the LLM to reason about what's going on and writes a little mini-plan for its next move. And finally, it acts. It executes a tool, like searching the web or writing to a file. Once that's done, the results feed right back into the observe step, and the whole cycle just repeats itself.
So, the crucial point is, this loop continues entirely autonomously until the high-level goal you set in your original prompt is finally marked as complete. There's no more ping-pong, you just hand the agent a complex task and it just spins through this loop as many times as it needs to figure it out. It completely replaces the need for you to sit there holding its hand.
Okay, moving on to part three, the digital language barrier.
Now, you might be wondering, how does this incredibly smart AI brain actually communicate with the digital tools we use every day? Well, we hit a massive integration bottleneck. And this brilliantly illustrates the problem. Before some very recent breakthroughs, every single tool basically spoke its own metaphorical language. Like sure, Claude speaks English, but maybe Notion speaks Spanish, Slack speaks Chinese, and your Chrome browser speaks Japanese. For an AI agent to use these, developers literally had to build custom, extensive integrations for every single app just so they could understand the LLM's requests.
Because at the end of the day, when an agent tries to use a tool, it's really just the LLM spitting out structured text, like a JSON file, that your specific code then has to meticulously interpret and execute. Building those custom translators from scratch for thousands of different applications, yeah, that's incredibly tedious. It was a total roadblock for scaling up. We desperately needed a better way.
Enter part four, MCP, the universal translator. This is where we get the massive breakthrough solution that completely shatters that digital language barrier, MCP. It stands for Model Context Protocol. It's an open standard that was originally created by Anthropic, and it acts as this ultimate universal translator between AI agents and external tools. It's basically the central nervous system for our digital workers.
It flawlessly takes the AI's intent and translates it into real-world action across pretty much any software platform that supports it.
The absolute magic of MCP is that the AI, let's say it's Claude, just gets to speak its native language, English. The tools keep speaking their own native code languages, and the model context protocol just sits right there in the middle, instantly translating those calls back and forth. This standardized connection is a total game changer. It means instead of custom coding every single integration, your agents can seamlessly plug into and interact with thousands of apps, from Slack to GitHub to your local file system, literally right out of the box.
Which perfectly sets up Part 5, Agent-Driving Web Browsers.
So, through something called the Chrome DevTools MCP, the agent is essentially placed right into the cockpit of a web browser. It now has literal buttons it can press: read console, click, drag, screenshot, input text. The AI doesn't just blindly scrape the backend code of a website anymore, it actually visually perceives it and clicks around exactly like you or I would.
Oh, but it gets even better. Because we're dealing with digital workers here, you can spawn multiple sub-agents in parallel. Just imagine this. You give a high-level task to a manager agent. That manager turns around and spawns 10 parallel agents, giving each of them their own browser window to independently navigate web pages, dynamically fill out contact forms, and pull data, all simultaneously. It's a literal swarm of productivity executing complex research all at once.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that number, 30 hours. To put that into perspective, if a human being wanted to manually visit, say, 1,000 different company websites, locate every single contact form, fill out their details, and hit send, at roughly 2 to 3 minutes per form, that is a solid 30 hours of mind-numbingly tedious manual labor. But a parallel agent swarm, using that model context protocol to seamlessly control all those browsers, can knock out that exact same 30-hour workload in just a matter of minutes. Just let that sink in for a second. The profound impact this kind of parallelization is going to have on our personal and economic productivity is absolutely staggering. We're talking about taking literal days of work and condensing them into the time it takes you to go grab a cup of coffee.
And that brings us to our final section, the agentic future.
So what does this all mean for us moving forward? Well, first off, we are absolutely keeping humans in control. Don't worry. Agents are amazing, but, they're still imperfect and they can definitely make mistakes. The future of this interface isn't about letting AI just run completely wild on your computer. It relies heavily on human oversight at key checkpoints. That means co-planning tasks together before hitting execute, co-tasking, like watching a live stream of the agent's screen so you can intercept if it goes off the rails, and setting up strict action guards, meaning the AI literally has to stop and ask for your explicit approval before making any risky decisions.
The massive takeaway for you here is that we are officially shifting from AI as a novelty chatbot to AI as an active digital worker. By equipping this incredibly smart reasoning engine with a tool belt for reading local files, searching the web, and deep software integration using MCP, you can literally start delegating your tedious, repetitive workflows today. You really don't have to wait years for this. The foundations are already here, right now. I want to leave you with this really powerful thought from our sources. The future of AI isn't just about smarter brains, but better tools and universal integration. Honestly, the brain is already incredibly smart. But now it finally has the hands, the eyes, and the universal translator it needs to actually get to work. The infrastructure is here. So the only question left for you is, what tedious task are you going to hand over to your new digital worker tomorrow? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.